Welcome to the Jolly Heretic. Joy! Joy! It is a day of joy, particularly to our viewers north of the border, because this appalling anti-free speech tyrant has resigned. So joy. Why was it 20 people watching? What's on here? So joy, everybody, and hello, and welcome to the Jolly Heretic. We're of course online public house, meets on Mondays at 7 p.m. UK time to discuss various based issues that are currently excluded at our woke joke universities and so forth. And with me, I have Mr. Charlie Vaite. Charlie, hello.
Hello, Edward. Good to be back on, as always. And I want to kick us off by saying that I felt like, I like fighting with my enemies. I like seeing them eviscerated and defeated. But I never gloat in the defeat of my adversaries. And I think Hamza Useless, he fell onto his own sword and he did it like a gentleman. He didn't blame anyone. He didn't kick off. He didn't go on a rant against white people. His P45 is white, very white, so he can the better pastures. But his
lacrimose eyeballs are white.
Yeah, eyeballs are white, and I've got a bad habit of feeling bad for people that I felt bad for Saddam Hussein when they were filming him with a noose around his neck. I felt bad for Gaddafi when they were sticking a bayonet up his anus on the roadside in Libya. I feel bad for these people, and I know Hamza has not done anything wrong except trying to upend the long tradition of free speech in Great Britain by sending Stasi officers into your home if you call a tranny. But apart from that, I'm glad he's gone. But I'm not going to revel.
He's done nothing wrong, unless you're a woman that wants to be not raped in prison by a man. He's done nothing wrong unless you're a woman that wants to change in a communal changing room with other women and not with men. He's done nothing wrong unless you're a woman that wants to be able to use the bog in peace without being potentially harassed by a man.
Fascinating. Can you imagine Hamza Yousaf being a proud Muslim, and he showed himself to be a proud Muslim? He had the call to prayer when he got into Butte House in Charlotte Square. Butte House, for the viewers who may not know, it's just off Princes Street, just off George Street in the Edinburgh Newtown. It's got no security around it. It's literally a big Newtown house. And he, being a very devout Muslim, I don't think, Edward, he would ever agree for his women in his family to have a man with a cock and balls in the same bathroom as his mother or his sister. And when Hamza Useless as well, he's like saying, oh yeah, we support abortion. Abortion is healthcare. Do you think Hamza Yousaf would abort a future Muslim warrior in one of his cousins' bellies? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Although one of his cousins I hear is a bit dodgy. There's certain things going on there. But no, anyway, before we carry on, so cheers everybody. I've got to sign into the old entropy. I'm just going to sign into the old entropy, chaps. Yes. Just a sec. I have to do that. It's the law. I have to turn the sound off. Back in. Okay, so cheers, everybody. Cheers, Charlie. Cheers, St. Mike. Cheers, G. Montague. Cheers, resident poet of the Jolly Heretic. Cheers, JOBRO78. Hergen Gerligan. Capis. Saludo. Proust. Pross. Slanger. You say Slandravar. You say Slandravar, Charlie. So anyway, Slandravar, and welcome to the Jolly Heretic. Our resident poet has written a poem in honor of this man's removal as follows: the downfall of Yousaf today has caused him some heartfelt dismay. This Scottish First Minister has a face very sinister and left things in stark disarray. Thank you very much, Mr. Quinn. And if you would like to buy Mr. Quinn's book of Jolly Heretic poetry, then it is, of course, available on the old Amazon. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that I find, he's been in charge for a year. It says a lot about Scotland, I think, as a country that's become semi-independent with this sort of glorified town council that can pass some laws but not other laws. That you get effectively the SNP come in, they take over most of the state. And then she has to be removed, this Nicola Sturgeon, because of corruption allegations, basically. It's all everyone in the know. And then this guy comes in. I don't think he's a leader. It seems to me he didn't have leadership characteristics. He seemed like a follower of Nicola Sturgeon, the protege, but not the protege next leader. He doesn't seem leader.
It's funny. He's a young guy. Like I was shocked, as I'm sure you were, Ed, as we discussed just off camera. The man is 39 years. He's in his 30s. He's a young guy, And he reminds me a bit of the opportunist, very political mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, a young guy, a young, like, Blairite guy who's probably wanting to be prime minister. But Hamza, he was always out of his depth. He had no alpha male leadership qualities. And picking a fight with JK Rowling, like arguing with JK Rowling, who's probably, unless you're a transgender ideologue, the whole world loves JK Rowling and agrees with her. And she basically said, she, on the first day that it came in on the 1st of April, what a day to bring, Fool's Day, to bring in this like thing. She listed Scotland's top 10 trannies, their crimes, their possession of cocks and balls. And then she said to Hamza, please come and arrest me. I'll happily go to jail. And it exploded it all. And I think that was one of the final nails. Although, Ed, I wanted to ask you, do you know enough about the Green coalition that eventually got Hamza kicked out? Because I don't understand it. Maybe you can enlighten me and the viewers.
Okay, yeah, I can. So there's yeah, with the transsexual thing, there's two issues there. There's the fact that he had worked very hard on that law as Justice Secretary, and it turned out to be a very, very unpopular law that nobody liked. So what he could have done if he was a good politician, if you've got to be Machiavellian, you've got to be power focused. It was clear it was very unpopular. It was clear it had gone too far. So surely you bring back on it. You want to stay in power, then you move back on it. You sideline it. You water it down. You do something. You engage in damage limitation. But he was so hubristic and so arrogant, or so out of touch, or had such bad advisors, or I don't know what, that he didn't do that. That's obviously what he should have done. He shouldn't have forced it through. So I think part of why I wanted to force it through was because he had done so much work on it, and also because he is this, with regard to hate, with freedom of speech and whatever, he's obviously a very bitter person. I mean, not just bitter in the way that most people in the SNP are, obviously, but I mean the fact that he did that speech in 2020 where he goes in a country that's 96% white and he goes through all these positions and says, oh, white, all the headmasters white, blah 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 blah, shows you he's quite bitter, angry sort of man. He wants laws like this. Now, one of the things that pressured him to have a law like that was that the Scottish government were elected in 2007 as a minority government. Then 4 years later, they get a majority. And then eventually they lose that majority in the last election. And so they have to cobble together a coalition with the Scottish Green Party. And the Scottish Green Party, pro-independence, but they're basically, even though they're the Green Party, for God's sake, they're the ecology party. They seem to be obsessed with transsexual rights and whatever. And so that was their big thing. And they made it clear that if he reneges on his commitment to that sort of thing, then the government falls. So he was in a position where he was reliant on the Greens to stay in power. So that was it. And you had these, and he realised this. And I think he wanted, and this was a problem because he had now realised that the transsexual stuff had gone too far, and he wanted to he wanted the freedom to be able to row back on it and not be quite so extreme. So therefore, he thought to himself, "Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll announce that I'm going to sack them from the coalition and whatever." But the problem is that these people are they're very left wing, so they're narcissists. And so he publicly humiliated them. He literally made them do a kind of walk of shame out of Boot House when they were no longer in front of the cameras. So of course they were furious. They were livid. But it didn't occur. I don't know. Did it not occur to Hamza Yousaf? Of course, the Conservative Party would table a vote of no confidence, and that they'd be angry enough to vote him down. And that just didn't. And that's just bad politics. Like, how do you think they're going to react? He thinks they're going to go, "Oh, fair enough." And that's what he said today in his speech. He basically said that he'd hurt the feelings of the Green Party, and that was the reason why he was having to go. So it's amazingly bad politics. Like
he's just a shit politician. I mean, he must be worth something to his lefty yes man. I mean, he is a yes man himself. But imagine just how many. He must have been surrounded by a lot of white people in Scotland, white lefties, who were perfectly fine. They probably said, "Oh, could you read my speech?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, he's denouncing white people." And then that speech goes out to all white people across Scotland, and he realizes he's not in his little echo chamber of like little happy lefty white people, which you so often talk about on your regular show, Ed, that they're spiteful mutants who want to destroy the system. And of course, they're going to tell a Muslim prime minister that is denouncing the ethnicity of 99% of people in the country. He's the first minister. Of course, they're going to tell him that's fantastic because it's chaos. It can cause problems.
Right, they're bitter, unpleasant people themselves. Well, he was Justice Secretary at the time. But yeah, and then, I mean, Anna Sarwar, who's the leader of the Labour Party in Scotland, also Pakistani, has made a similar speech, actually. But it wasn't broadcast. Fortunately for him, it didn't become a meme, and so he's able to sort of save face a bit and sort of go back on it. But of course, you're going too far in a country like that to say something like that. And the other thing
Sorry, let me stop in whilst we're getting angry at Hamza Yousaf for denouncing white people. I don't know if I've said this with you, Ed, before on the show because I say so many things, but I'm going to say a brown joke about brown people. So about a month ago,
steady on. We're on YouTube here. Steady on.
I know, but I think we can get away with it. So I'm very careful, and also someone in the comments. No, I won't say that. But a month ago, Americans dropped aid packages into Gaza, onto the Gaza Strip. Some of the parachutes on the big 2-ton aid things didn't deploy, and 5 Palestinians were killed by falling aid packages from a big American plane. And someone commented, "Wow, that is the brownest way to die."
Yes, very good.
I think we can get away with that one. I think we can say that kind of.
I don't really get it, but so that's it. But also when he was
get it. You know, brown people, and the brownest way to die is being killed by an aid package falling on your head. You know? Okay. Cut. I never said it.
Okay. Anyway, when he was, the one thing is that he was transport minister, and under normal standards, if you're transport minister and you're arrested for driving a car without insurance, and you get 6 points on your license, then which happened to him in 2016, then you would probably have to resign. Because you're transport minister and you're engaging in a major transport-related crime.
Yeah, fraud. It's fraud.
It's not fraud, but it's illegal. He's driving without insurance. It's a crime.
Yeah.
And he blamed the breakup of his marriage, and he just got a slap on the wrist.
And I blame her as well because she was white. His first wife was white.
Yeah. White. The woman that caused me to get 6 points on my license. White. And that's quite interesting in terms of genetic similarity theory and so on as well, isn't it? But his first wife he marries, he's brought up Pakistani in Glasgow, not many of them, and he marries a white girl, a Scottish girl, and then he stays married to her for a bit, and then he divorces her in favour of a fellow Pakistani. That's quite interesting that it worked out like that.
It's not bad. I'm like, but that I think to say a few nice things about the guy, he's just lost his job. He must be feeling very bad. He must come from quite a moderate Pakistani British family to be marrying white girls because usually they just abuse them and turn them into kebab meat.
Yes, I suspect they must have been relatively liberal, which also makes me wonder. I don't know, as a Scottish person, do you have a view on this? I was thinking it's almost like an overcompensation. Why would you, as a Pakistani brought up in a Scotland of the 1980s and 90s, was overwhelmingly white? It's still overwhelmingly white. And I think to myself, well, why would you be interested in joining the Scottish National Party? In what way is it in your interests as a Pakistani to have a nationalistic Scottish government? And I was thinking, is it that the Scottish National Party are anti-English?
Yes.
And he sees the empire as an English thing, and so he therefore has an animus to the English. Is that what attracted to him?
I think so. And to kind of praise the poor guy, he's not. Would you say, Ed, very quickly, would he be high IQ, midwit, or low IQ? Very quickly.
Well, he must be. If he's got a degree in politics from Glasgow University, he must be at least a midwit. He must be reasonably intelligent.
Yeah, he's a midwit, and he must be struggling today. So when I see people, even when they're bastards, but I think he's more of a lefty Scotsman rather than a Pakistani Muslim. I think the things I dislike about him are exclusively about his lefty Scottish. They say a well-balanced Scotsman's got a chip on each shoulder, hates the English. The Scottish do so many things just because it's different to the English. And again, like every town in Scotland, 20-mile-an-hour zone. you can shop all day in Scotland on a Sunday because the English have got English Sunday trading hours. They love being different. But the things about Hamza that I dislike is his politics and not his religion. Maybe, like when he was a young guy, you know, I read, I don't know where it might even have been on your channel, Ed. I don't know. I watch quite a lot of your content. But
but yes.
But young Muslims growing up in Britain, they struggle with identity. They can't become like William Wallace or St. George, or, you know, there's a lot of English heroes, but because we're like, oh, you're not English, you're not Scottish. So at least rather than joining like, you know, Hizb ut-Tahrir or any other Islamist group, Hamza Yousaf went into pathetic, shitty, lefty politics. And so he found his identity as a Scotsman by hating the English.
Exactly, but not just lefty politics. He didn't go into like the Labour Party, like Anas Sarwar or what you might expect him to do. He went into the Scottish National Party, specifically the Scottish National Party. And as I understand it, when he was quite young as well, so when he was a teenager, I mean, they weren't even they were the opposition in Scotland at that time. But it was a kind of Machiavellian thing that he saw that it's shifting that way. That's where power's going to be, powers with the SNP. That's my theory with Liz Truss. She started off in the Liberal Democrats when the Conservatives were in decline. Then when the Conservatives were at rock bottom and the only way was up, and then that's when she got involved in the Conservative Party. It was a sort of Machiavellian thing to do, and also it was a party that was crying out for women MPs at the time because there were so many men. And I think maybe that's part of it, that he thought, the future, the winds are blowing that way. So that's away from Labour at that time.
And when politicians get it right, it's impressive. Well, Boris Johnson saw which way the winds were blowing, just 51.8 to 49.2. But 48.2. Just before Brexit, I was surprised that Boris Johnson, so mainstream, would jump into a potentially a disastrous, ruinous choice for Brexit. Because at the time, David Cameron and the whole country, I thought Brexit would definitely lose. And when Boris Johnson, Machiavellian, did that thing in a Machiavellian manner, as you said, it worked out well for him. And so sometimes when they get it right. Now, was there not, you're talking about Hamza Yousaf and doing a traffic offense, breaking the law, fraud, uninsured car. Did we not have a female MP who also got done for pretending that it was someone else driving? She got a driving ticket and then she got sacked from Parliament, didn't she?
There's a number of cases like this. There was a Liberal Democrat MP called Chris Huhne, who pretended his wife was driving when actually it was him, to avoid some sort of problem, and that was the end of that. Ended his political career when that came out. There was that black Labour MP.
Look at that, kicked out of being an MP.
Right. But MP for Peterborough, is it?
Very good, Ed. Good memory, good knowledge.
Thank you. So there was some sort of fraud there as well. So and she was forced out because of it. But this one, I should emphasise that wasn't that not some kind of financial fraud.
I think it was.
No one's accusing Hamza Yousaf of financial fraud. It's just that he was driving without a license. Sorry, without a
this one's lying about a speeding ticket. Osanya lied about a speeding ticket. I think she said her sister was her brother was driving. She said, and it was her.
Yeah, right. So that's different. He didn't do that. He was driving. He was caught. He didn't have insurance. That was it. That's what he was guilty of. I mean, even today though, I thought we're trying to be nice about him. Fair enough. But I thought even then that there was a way in which he was having a dig, like this thing about saying, his major achievement, he said, was that when he was growing up, there weren't people that had positions of power in British politics that looked like him. That's what he said, that looked like him.
Yes.
And I was thinking, he said, because he's got a beard.
Yeah.
And we haven't had a prime minister with a beard in the UK since the Marquess of Salisbury in 1902.
No.
Yes. That was my charitable interpretation, but in reality, obviously, he meant Asian. He meant non-white. So that's his main achievement, from what I could work out, was to just say, I'm non-white, and I was the first minister of Scotland. He didn't really list anything else he'd managed to do.
Yeah, this is where I get really angry with everyone. Like Joe Biden about a decade ago, he's like, in the year 2030, white people will be a minority in America. And then he goes, and that's a good thing, because obviously he's a yes man for all the liberal. But we see, like when I was living in first of all in Guinea in West Africa, I saw when I was 10 years old, my dad got sacked. Well, he was forced out of his position And I saw the document, Compagnie de Bauxite de Guinée, the bauxite to make aluminium, Guinea, big exporter. And it was the Africanization of the workforce. And that was the word, l'Africanisation de l'emploi, blah, blah, blah. And there it was in black and white, the Africanization of the workforce, which is fair enough. Now, when my dad was in Saudi Arabia, all the old British pilots, harbor pilots, were slowly being replaced with young Saudi Arabian pilots. But the problem with the young Saudi Arabian pilots is that they did not like to work. And they felt that piloting a ship was manual labor that should be done by Filipinos and Pakistanis and dirty white people who like beer and things like that. And so I've seen it my whole life, like replacing. And I never thought, like, and that's fair enough. You could argue, oh, your dad was a dirty colonialist in West Africa and Saudi Arabia. They should run their own people. But then it's chased me home. I've lived in Britain since 1993. And I'm amazed that it only took to my early 40s to start seeing people saying, we're going to replace all white people. And it's a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing to promote people other than on competence. And that's one of the problems. If you are a left-wing bitter party full of bitter people like the Scottish National Party, and therefore you want to outdo the British, then one of the ways that you can feel morally superior is to not vote for the kind, lovely, sweet, Christian, religious, intelligent Katie Forbes. Don't vote for her. No, vote for Hamza Yousaf because he's Pakistani. And thus he gets elected. And evidently, I mean, he was incompetent always. I mean, when he was running the Scottish Health Service, the ambulance waiting times was something like 5 to 8 hours for an ambulance. I mean, you'd be dead by the time it comes. Ambulance meant to be an emergency. Waiting times in the health service, in the hospitals of, 15, 16 hours. And I should emphasize that because of the Barnett formula and whatever, Scotland's is 30% more is spent on the Scottish NHS than the British NHS. 30% more.
Wow.
And yet it's that rubbish. So he's obviously incompetent, and that was when he was in health. Then he goes into transport, and we see he breaks the law. Then he goes into the justice thing, and he draws up a law to just utterly repress free speech. Then he becomes prime minister, and all he'll be remembered for really is that anti-free speech.
100%. And let's not forget, like, Hamza has just presided over Scotland continuing to be the sick man of Europe, with a life expectancy for men in central Glasgow lower than Baghdad. No, not even a joke, lower than Baghdad. And also, my parents living in Kelso, Ed, when we lived in, where was it? No, we used to live in France, La Rochelle. I'm so old now, I don't even remember what decade I'm in. But in Scotland, my parents would do a booze cruise from Kelso across the border at Coldstream to Berwick upon Tweed, yeah? And then they get English prices because all beer and wine is 20% more expensive in Scotland because you pay an extra tax. I just got distracted by the comment section there. Please don't do that, people. That's really distracting. So basically, Scotland's the sick man of Europe. They're going to raise more tax money off alcohol to make them less sick, and they're still just as sick.
Yeah, well, they've got a terrible health system. And if you go to, I was saying to a friend of mine, a Scottish friend of mine on Saturday night, that you get like a bell curve. There's a bell curve of England, there's a bell curve of Scotland. And the consequence is that you'll get a sort of an outlier. Most Scottish English people are basically very similar, but you get like an outlier of like the extreme, bitter, uptight, unpleasant woman that you just wouldn't get in England. She's much more rare, and that's Nicola Sturgeon. Like she embodies all of the aspects. She's like at the extreme bell curve of Scottishness that we just don't have in England. It's not there. And at the other bell curve, you've got the sort of jolly drunk to a degree that I think doesn't exist even in England. Like Forbes, my caretaker in my first year at Aberdeen University. Oh, Ed, it's nae bother. Oh, it's nae bother. He's just happy all the time. And also the skag addicts or whatever. They're just sitting in the streets of Aberdeen and Glasgow and parts of Edinburgh, I guess, Leith or whatever, just on drugs. I mean, it's just something you don't see in England. I mean, never in England has a girl of about 15 wearing a dirty tracksuit walked up to me and said, can I wank you off for 10 quid or whatever it was she said. I was like, what? I was walking down towards the docks in Aberdeen, and you just get accosted by these drug addicts. Just like there's not even trying. They're not even wearing fishnet stockings or whatever. They're
not putting the effort in. A dirty tracksuit, you say?
Exactly. And I was like, no, absolutely not. No. And it's something you don't like. Blue lights in the McDonald's on Union Street.
Yeah. Oh, I've just lost the signal
so
here.
They can't score. They can't shoot up. Even in places like I was in. No, you're fine. I was in. Have you heard of Inverurie?
I have.
Can you hear it?
Is it Inverurie?
I was in Inverurie. Yeah, and they had a loo there, like a super loo. And if you go into that loo, you've got 5 minutes, and then the door opens. There's actually a timer. And obviously that's to stop people going in there to use it to shoot up.
Yeah.
And so you have to have these regulations in Scotland that you just don't have in England. They're just not there because there's these differences. And I think that those health differences, as you say, like somewhere like Drumchapel, I understand that the life expectancy is 60. And it's right next to a Bear's Den in Glasgow, which is very, very posh. And the university system is collapsing in Scotland as well because it's rubbish, because it's work. And so he's just done a useless job. And I hope that Katie Forbes is, even she's very young as well. She's born like 1992 or something, but is as she should have been, is elected leader, because she's kind of based.
And so, Ed, just for myself and the viewers, is Katie Forbes a Tory or SNP? What is she?
No, she's SNP. She's SNP, and she stood against Hamza for the job of SNP leader last year, and she came second. Okay. But even though that is the case, she's Christian. She's a Free Church of Scotland.
Yeah.
And she's extremely based on social questions. So and she's very pleasant, and she's very pleasant and lovely and kind and friendly. And so I think that's the leader Scotland needs. But he's gone out right now. Is that a problem with my internet or his? I don't know. There's some internet gremlins, chaps.
Let me just go a second.
He's shouting at his internet man. He's saying, "Oi, it's the little get off the internet."
Yeah. Sorry, Laura was she was downloading some pirated movies and using all the bandwidth, but we're good now.
Oh, I see. I try. Well, we saw you tell her in no uncertain terms to stop downloading.
Well, basically, I can't have someone in my household breaking copyright law. You know, someone in my position, Ed, it would just be wrong.
No, as a public figure as you are, it's a bit intolerable, the idea that there should be someone in your house breaking copyright law.
No,
exactly. How could that work?
Speaking, you know what? I think this is a good way for us to kind of take this down into something quite profound. Let Ed have his sneezes. Bless you, Ed. Bless you. Now, right. I like a good tearjerker, and today's tearjerker, ladies and gentlemen, is that in Winchester, the mayor of Winchester, former mayor. He's 72 years old. He is in court for attempted murder for smothering his 92-year-old, terminally ill, cancerous, literally in the last hour of her life. The nurses, the Macmillan, what do you call them, end-of-life nurses, they left the bedroom to let the son say goodbye to his mother. And he saw his mother, and in his words, drowning, gurgling, suffering. And he asphyxiated her, and she died. Instead of 10 hours.
She was in such a bad state. She hadn't had a conversation for 18 months.
Yeah, she'd not spoken to anyone for a year and a half.
Yeah, just sat there in a daze, being kept alive, and just getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And eventually, he said he couldn't bear it. He couldn't bear watching her suffering like that, gurgling, unable to breathe. So he put a pillow over her head, or a cushion over her face.
And I understand we're a civilized nation, even though we can all look at this and say, come on, let the guy go. Poor guy. Do you think, Edward, we still have to have the court and the process?
Well, I suppose that's an interesting question, isn't it? I suppose in order to have a society that comes across as being run by the rule of law, and that's very important. That we are governed by the rule of law. Yeah. That he has broken the law technically, and so I suppose you could argue you could try to argue, and they do this, the Crown Prosecution Service, that the trial wouldn't be in the public interest.
Yeah.
And not have the trial, but then it's a very in theory what he's done is an extremely serious offence.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have been charged. Even they could have charged him with murder.
Yeah.
But they chose. The prosecution stated, and some people would even criticise this, stated that no, because she could have died at any time, and because indeed she probably would have died even if he hadn't tried to kill her. Indeed, the two things may have been independent of each other.
Yeah.
Then it's downgraded to attempted murder. But it would set a rather dangerous precedent to just say, to be such an emotional society that we just say, yeah, he's broken the law, but it's very upsetting, and so we won't do anything. So
we have to do something. Yeah,
you can see why the process has to be gone through. But I do think that any reasonable jury, if I don't want him to go to prison. So I can see how that, and that then corrupts the legal system, because you can see how if you don't want him to go to prison, unless the prosecution make absolutely clear that he will not go to prison.
Yeah.
Then you can see how a juror might just find him not guilty out of sympathy. And I was saying to you, was it before the show, about that case in Scotland in about 1830, Britain's last duel. Yeah. And there was this guy that inadvertently insulted somebody else. It wasn't really his fault, and the person he insulted was so narcissistic that he dropped the glove, as it were, in public. And of course, then this was an ex-soldier, an ex-officer, and so of course this officer had to pick up this in that community. This Scottish guy, who was a solicitor, I think, had to pick it up, and so that meant that was it. There was the duel, and he'd accepted the challenge. And so they duelled with pistols at dawn, and he didn't want to do it. And then he realized, he thought he's bound to do it. He's bound to be killed because this guy is an ex marksman. And I don't know exactly what happened, but what he could have I can't remember the details, whether it was the other guy shot first, but he shot into the air or something. But then it came to the shot of the guy who was not experienced at shooting, and he said what he tried to, I think he tried to miss. No, he ended up killing him. The first shot, and it went to trial, and there was this tremendous public pressure for the jury to find him not guilty, and so he was found not guilty because the attitude was, it's not his fault. I mean, what could he do?
Yeah, no, and so Ed, I think you raise a very valid point. To maintain the pretense that we are civilized, rule of law, we're all equal under the law. Obviously, he has to be tried, and I find it interesting. It's attempted murder or something. But what if he is found guilty? If he, what do you think would be a suitable sentence for a man euthanizing his suffering mother out of love? I need to ban someone in the comment. Stu Peter, you've come from my side, but you can't keep spamming that. Put user in timeout. I'm not going to ban you because I like every view, even if they've got funny views. But sorry, go on. There you go.
It was 23rd of August, 1826. Armed with a wealth of private resources, David Landale, prosperous living merchant, and Landale's one-time banker, George Morgan. And it was in Kilcardy, in Fife.
Kirkcaldy!
The last duel in Scotland, chaps. Pistols at dawn. Morgan that was shot, blood pouring from his mouth. Landale, the novice gunman, had just fired the straightest shot ever. And killed him. There was an episode of Time Watch about it.
Very good. And
I don't know what sentence they could. What could they do? I mean, any sentence is perverse. He shouldn't have to go to prison because it's just not on. Prison's a horrible place. So I suppose that why, if it's like an open prison, frankly, why should he have to go there? So you sort of think to yourself, well, what are you going to do? Make him do community service? I mean, what good will that do? But you can't just let him off completely because it's quite a serious crime, attempted murder. So I guess they could give him some therapy. They could say, you've got to. They do that with people that lose their temper and stuff. Don't they? You've got to have some therapy, and he'll probably want therapy anyway.
I think electronic tag, 200 hours of community service. Give him a 6-month curfew where he can't leave the house between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. And that'll be fine. He's 72. He doesn't want to go out at nighttime anyway. But yeah, we need to give him a little.
What if we make him go to an old people's home and make him watch very elderly ladies in tremendous pain and give him a pillow, and he has to have the self-control to not kill them?
You know what? Now that he's been tried in the court, Ed, that's a good idea. He'd be like, Macmillan nurse, bring the morphine, or it's the pillow. Bring the morphine.
That could be it. Yeah, but it does raise some because Esther Ranson is saying that she's dying of something or other, and she would like to be killed. But then the problem is, if you bring that in, then you can see how it creates a situation where elderly people will feel under pressure to allow themselves to be euthanized because they'll see themselves as useless and as a drain on their families and drain on resources, and so it will put them under pressure to be euthanized, even though they won't want that. So it's a difficult area, this idea of having euthanasia. I mean, and then in Holland now, you get basically perfectly physically healthy people that say, "Oh, I've been suffering from depression for years and years, so I want to be killed." And this is happening. This is going ahead. Like young girls in their 20s and 30s, and the boards in the Netherlands are saying, "Yeah, you can be euthanized." And their parents are saying, "Please don't do this. This is awful." And they're like, "No, that's her decision. She's over the age of 18, and she can be euthanized." I think it's just a difficult area. What do you think? Should they have euthanasia in the UK?
No. Life is sacred. Life is precious. We can never ever allow the state to have the right to say killing is okay. It's a slippery slope, as you say, Ed. There's a lot of people who are struggling financially, and a lot of people who are a bit Machiavellian or a bit psychopathic, saying, Dad, you're getting on a bit. I could really do with an inheritance. I want to buy a house, and could you please, take yourself out? And that's not good. We are a Christian country. Life is precious. For the same reasons I may have disagreements with abortion, those are the exact same reasons I have disagreements with euthanasia, because life is meant to be special.
Yeah, but the difference is that with abortion, it's at a very early stage, and whereas this would be elderly people, and there would be, and that you can just see that if that exists, then suddenly a social pressure is enacted upon them. Which should not be. I mean, my mother-in-law, for example, has Alzheimer's. Only tonight she rang up my wife and declared what part of this town in Finland she lives in. And my wife was like, "Yeah, you've lived there for 8 years."
Yeah.
Have I? Yeah. 8 years. Have I? Yeah. And where do I used to live? And she goes, "Oh." And where do you live? And where do you live? And I was like, "Bowling."
Oh,
you. Yeah, we lived here for 20 years. Okay. And so
remember, sorry, just to jump in. Remember last week I talked about my very wise friend Ian Atkinson from Prudhoe near Newcastle, Edinburgh University. He goes, "No, Charlie, thank God everything has a dollar sign in front of it because there's no ideology." But the flip side is, I can see society getting more and more financial, more and more complicated, more and more, are you productive? Are you productive? To the point where the disabled and the elderly may feel pressure to kill themselves. And I think that would be an absolute tragedy. You are worthy as a human being, whether you make money or not. You are special, whether you are needed or not. The very fact you are alive and exist, I think, should be celebrated.
True. But I mean, going on to another thing that we were going to talk about tonight, you should probably try and make money.
100%. I mean, yes.
That's the current problem in the UK, that you get these people that are signed off on the sick, or that they've got depression or something, or anxiety, or whatever the excuse.
I've got mental health.
And they don't even say mental health problems. They just have got mental health.
I've got mental health.
Having mental health is good.
Yes,
it's health. Health is good. But no, you've got this new thing. It's spread down. It's spread down from the higher classes that you say, "I've got mental health." So when I was at university, it was only posh kids that had mental health, really. And now it's all the way down. It's people who are like I was interviewing in Clacton or whatever, and I've got mental health, so I can't work. I don't know what's wrong with his internet tonight, chaps. I think he's going through that kind of phase you may recall that I went through when I had Nick Fuentes on here and when I had Bishop Williamson on here, where my internet just kept messing around. Now, that happened with me because the internet provider I was using, and I won't name them, were rubbish, and I've changed. But also because I had 2 children, and they were using their devices and whatever, and it had gone from being just me using the internet to everybody in our house. Well, not everybody, not like the cats, but like all the humans in our house using the internet at the same time. And I get the impression that Laura, dear sweet Laura, is reading some book on the psychology of gingerness or something, and it's taking ages to download. It's a substantial document, and this is going on. But yes, what we're saying, they want to bring in a new policy in the UK anyway, that you can kind of be compelled to work a bit more. Get back to work, says the work secretary, even if you're mildly mentally ill. And I think that's fair enough, because if you are mildly mentally ill, I mean, isn't that like the equivalent of going to work with a cold?
Yes.
I mean, you go to work with a cold, you're a bit ill, but you go to work. You don't just stay off work because you've got a cold. And so similarly,
being nervous for an interview, you can't say being nervous is a mental illness. You're nervous. It's in your mind. It's a neurological thing, but you have to care. I've got another spammer in the comment section. Let me just take care of this.
Spam this person, R1233.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Done. But no, I support it. There's an area, the highest benefits place in Great Britain is a suburb of Liverpool called Knowsley or Knowsley.
There's now no. I'm getting. Oh no, sorry. It's called what? Sorry.
Knowsley or Knowsley?
Yeah, but beginning with K. Knowsley. Yeah.
And 20% of households, not people, of all. Actually, no. 20% of people, not households. Let me get it right. 20% of the population are on personal independence payments. So 20% of the population, 1 in 5, are literally too disabled to tap on the computer screen. But they're not. They've all got their mobility scooters, and that's another thing that grinds my gears. These fat bastards. I saw some ham planets. I saw someone the size of Jupiter on a mobility scooter. And like, how do those arteries cope? If you get onto a mobility scooter when you're already fat, you're probably shortening your lifespan. You need to keep moving. You need to keep the blood vessels going. If you give up and get onto the mobility scooter and go, oh, I've got mental health, I need to wheel myself to the shop. You might as well get the mayor of Winchester.
I think I told you about that time when I was at a Walmart in North Carolina, and the majority of people there were on those buggy things, those things you drive.
Walmart, I'm not surprised.
And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then there was this woman, and she parked in the disabled parking space, which is relatively, obviously it's right next to the Walmart, but there was still a bit of a walk to make it from the disabled space to the door of the Walmart, where you could get into one of these motorized things. And literally, I watched her, and by the time she got there, she was wheezing. I mean, and that was a walk. That was a walk on, not uphill. That was a walk straight across flat land of 20 seconds or less. I couldn't believe it. And then I went into a place called Golden Corral, and I know that I've explained this a number of times to people. A place called Golden Corral. Eat as much as you like for $14, and they do. And I mean, the level of fatness there, that I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Yeah, like the people that used to be in these Victorian freak shows 200 years ago, 150 years ago, that's a standard guy in Walmart now, isn't it, Ed?
In that part of America, yeah. I mean, you go to other parts of America, like, I don't know, I've been to Denver, Colorado, and these kinds of places, and everyone's thin. There's nobody fat around there. But if you go to the southern states or the Appalachians, then I've not been to the deep south, but I can certainly comment on the Appalachians, Kentucky and West Virginia. Then yeah, I mean, everybody is overweight, and to the extent that people that in Europe we would regard as fat, he's fat, right? They're just average there, and they probably see themselves as average. They think, well, I'm not that bad, because look at that bloke over there. Christ, and look at her. So I'm all right. Yeah. So the level of and the fact that they have these mobility scooters or whatever they're called, it just makes it worse. They shouldn't be allowed to have them.
No, they should keep walking. About 10 years ago, Ed, I saw a documentary. It was the world's fattest murderer. There was a man in Texas who he murdered someone, and he weighed, and I'm not even joking, something like 450 kilos. Like he's a 1,000-pound man. And he was gloating in the TV show saying, they're not going to be able to house me in a prison. I'll be under house arrest, which is what I'm under anyway. I didn't do it anyway. He got found guilty, and I think it was Houston or Galveston. They built a special prison room for him to house him, the fat bastard.
Excellent. Imagine that if they hanged him, if it was murder and they were to hang him, you'd have to get the balance right, because with someone that fat, the head could come clean off.
Yeah.
So it would have to be a very short drop.
Then you'd have the traumatic of all the kind of entrails and blood and guts spilling out everywhere. You'd have to put it in like a pit, a kind of metal pit, to catch all the entrails, because the head would come off, obviously.
Yeah.
But then even if it fell 6 feet, 1,000 pounds falling 6 feet made of gristle and fat with an open top, it will just explode everywhere. It's not good.
No, it's not good. If you're going to, I mean, that's what Albert Pierpoint, Britain's last hangman, used to do. He brought in a system of variable weights. So to make sure, he would see the person before he executed them. He'd weigh them and he'd measure their height, and then on that basis he'd work out how it would work in terms of the physics, and then he would make sure that the neck would snap, but obviously the head would not come off.
And we used to make fun of fat people. We used to have a show called Little Britain, where Matt Lucas played the lady running Fat Fighters, and it used to be acceptable to laugh and make fun of fat people. And I still think it is. I do it on my channel because I believe that hurting them by making them feel bad for being ham planets might make them lose weight. You know, I've seen a fat guy walking through Piccadilly train station in Manchester, and a dwarf walked past them, got sucked into orbit, and like the poor dwarf almost fell over from the gravitational pull of the fat guy. And it was incredible to see. I was like, wow. So
really? I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
Well, so humans can have can be that fat that they can have literally a gravitational pull.
He honestly, he deviated. The dwarf was walking straight. I swear I saw a 2 or 3% degree turn from walking past the fat guy. It was impressive. Like he almost, and then he tried to eat the dwarf. He turned around and tried to fucking eat him, man.
He probably thought about eating the dwarf. I was once at a bar in Oulu, and there were these two really hot dwarfs.
Hot dwarfs?
Yeah, really pretty. They were all dolled up. It was like their night out. And then I was coming back from the bar, and I almost tripped on one of them in front of me. And I thought, my God, it's about midnight. Who on earth has brought their 3-year-old child to this bar? This is absolutely outrageous. And also in Finland, there's no, you know, how in England you can bring kids to the restaurant, a bit of a pub or whatever. There's none of that in Finland. They're not family places, bars. They're places to drink heavily. And so I was like, what the hell's going on? And then I realized it was a person that was as small, even by the standards of dwarfs. She might have been about 2'5".
Wow.
And then there was a friend, and they spoke excellent English. And they were quite, you know, they're quite pretty.
Well, you know, like there are rather than going to Turkey for a penis enlarging surgery, just get a dwarf girlfriend. You'll got a massive cock then.
I don't know. I wonder if that's the case, though. I wonder if they're
maybe they're what if they're like really tiny, but they've got a standard woman-sized vagina? That would be scary.
Yes. I've said I've not investigated it, but if we have anybody out there who has. Then please write in, and we can discuss it next week. That's a very interesting thing anthropologically. If anyone out there, you do let us know. I haven't. This is not something I've thought about as much depth as perhaps I should have done. Depth. And how would it work? I mean, girth, length over length over girth. I don't know how that would work, but that's worth thinking about. Yeah, do. Anyway, we're about halfway through. So to those of you that are new, hello. Welcome to the Jolly Heretic. We're an online public house which meets on Mondays at 7 p.m. UK time, in which we discuss base things that increasingly expunged from our Woke Joke Media and Woke Joke University. If you would like to help the channel, then please do. There are various ways you can do so. Most importantly, please subscribe. Subscribe here and subscribe on my Substack, thejollyheretic.com, where you can, if you like what I do, you can help to fund it for as little as the cost of £5 a month, and where I put all of the most base stuff that I can't possibly put on here. You can also, link is in the description, purchase Jolly Heretic merchandise, sign up for my course on sociobiology, send in Bitcoin, and hello on Odyssey as well, subscribe to Odyssey. And of course, you can also buy my books, all of which are available on Amazon. And also, you can subscribe to Charlie's channel, that's Charlie Veach. And Charlie Veach goes around Manchester documenting it for the future. And the other thing I should say is that there will be a Jolly Heretic live meetup, pub in real life, and this will be happening on the 31st of May at a secret South London location, and we will be screening my film Year Zero, about Tony Blair's destruction of all British freedoms and everything that's good and how we can try and fight back against it. And then there'll be a panel discussion afterwards between myself, Richard Grannon, Carl Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, academic agent, and the comedian Nick Dixon. So do come along to that. And if you go to my Substack, jollyheretic.com, then that's where I believe you can buy tickets. So do come along to that, and it would be great to meet you. And please stop spamming the chat. Okay, now
they're all coming from my side, Ed. I apologize for my N-word.
You can put them in timeout. You can.
I'm doing that. I'm timing them up because
Richard. Sorry, I was going to say the person that's saying it, Richard who? Richard Grannon. He is a narcissism expert. Sorry, carry on.
I was just saying, I'll take any viewers I can. I'm not one of these people that will like, oh, he shared that. You can't. If my viewers want to be like that, I don't. As long as I got bums on seats, but I will try and change them to be nice people. That's my thing. I think
it's like what they're doing. It's kind of like at school when you had to graffiti the RE book. You know, the RE textbook, and there'd be like, I don't know, an image from, I don't know, the Virgin Mary and the Angel Gabriel or whatever, and you draw a big cock on the Angel Gabriel with all spunk coming out the end, and then you'd make her like suck his cock. Like everybody, surely, Generation Z people, do you have RE textbooks? Do they have wholesome pictures of biblical scenes in that you graffiti? And they say things like, oh, like the side saying, oh, that's Charlie's mum. Or whatever, like that, like that, or Ed's mum, like that kind of thing, and then you draw like vagina, big vagina with all hair and like, I mean, do kids still do that? I don't know, like, come on, surely.
Yeah, they do. But what they do, Ed, instead of drawing like, de-virginizing the Mary, or as you say, a massive, thick, purple-headed shaft on Gabriel, and also spunk white. I got that from the comment section. Who said that spunk is white? Spunk. White, but nowadays, Ed, they do TikTok videos insulting each other and then go out at the weekend and stab each other and get life sentences. I've seen two this weekend, like to bust this myth that women are these. And obviously, Laura's a wonderful woman. I'm sure the women in your life are wonderful. But twice this week, I've been watching Channel 4 Digital Detectives, about detectives breaking into young girls' phones and finding out that they are integral to gangs to get the boys they want to stab to death. They honey trap them. So they get a girl to like be sexual with a boy and take them to a park. And then when he thinks he's getting poontang, he gets a zombie knife in his heart. And that's twice now. One of the girls was 18. The other one was 13, organizing murder of her fellow gangster boys. Very bad.
Where is this?
England, Nottingham and London. There's the 2 episodes I've seen so far.
Are they English people or are they
No, the ones in Nottingham were white, like Hamza Yousaf's favorite people.
Oh my goodness me, Nottingham! I'm glad I've not been to Nottingham because by all accounts it sounds awful. But yeah, God, and that's unpleasant. I'm going to turn to some of the questions that you have sent in. So hang on a minute. So downloads. Let's get this right. Yes, here we go. Okay, so the first question is from Earthstick, and he says, is there a correlation between breastfeeding into late infancy, i.e. aged 6, and drug use in later life? I have not found any study that has looked at the correlates in later life of being breastfed to a late age. I've looked and looked and looked and looked. And also, you've got to think that if a woman is doing something weird, something unusual, then the traits that would make one do something weird or unusual would be significantly genetic, probably at least 50%. And so you'd have to control for that. So if a woman is a bit mental and she breastfeeds her child to the age of 6, then the child may be a bit mental, but that obviously could be completely independent of the fact that he's been breastfed. Moreover, I would add that until relatively recently, kids were breastfed until quite advanced ages because water was dirty. and they didn't want to give them alcohol because alcohol, can get you drunk. So they would be breastfed to quite advanced ages because it was a very healthy thing to do. That's why there's that scene in that film about the last emperor of China, where you see him and he's about 4 years old or something, and he's 5 years old and he's still being breastfed. So I doubt that it causes any particular problems. Other factors controlled for. The next question comes: was it the cognitive dissonance about?
Wait, Ed, before we go, can I just do my breastfeeding rant because it's quite close to my heart. I was breastfed. I love the tit. I'm glad I don't remember it, but I'm sure I loved it. But did you know, very close to me as well, because I've got 3 children in Salford, and all breastfed. Happy to announce, and any future children I have are going to be fucking breastfed, or I'm joking, but. The borough, the county in England with the lowest rates at 12%. You know how hamsters eat their own babies when they're stressed? Women stop breastfeeding their kids. 12% is Salford, the lowest in all of England, because they'd rather go out, take ecstasy, take cocaine. I've got dirty tits now. I can't feed the little Johnny. Little Connor's going to have to fucking have the bottle. Fuck him, little shit.
Yes, there's a very interesting research by this Finnish guy called Jani Miettinen. I don't know if you know the book Fourth Turning, and it looks at these political cycles that we seem to go through, where there's a war every 80 years and whatever. And he argues that the big cause of it is hormonal cycles across time, oxytocin changing within generations. It's an adaptation to predation and to better predate. So you're less predictable. So testosterone across time, oxytocin across time, and they all seem to parallel. And you'll get these generations that engage in low levels of breastfeeding and high levels of wet nursing, or in our time of baby formula, and then it goes away, and then it comes back again. So I wonder, in Salford, is it quite ethnic?
No, it's very white.
White.
Yes.
The city of Salford, or the town of Salford, white. Okay, well, I don't know what will be going on there, but that's quite interesting. Okay, the next question comes from Kit, and he says this is of Humza. He's worked hard to make Scotland a totalitarian state that controls what you are allowed to say in your own home. He's a racist. He's an aggressive bigot who wants to put people in prison for having the wrong opinions. I'm going to gloat about this. Okay, Kit. Well, I can't disagree with you. I mean, the making it a crime to say things in your own home is definitely crossing a line, isn't it? I.e., the line of your home. Yeah. An Englishman's home is his castle, and property rights very important in English law. In many ways, the English Civil War was about property rights and various other rights, and rights to tax and things, and taking people's property away. It's a very Anglo-Scottish thing, really, the Enlightenment, isn't it? I mean, the French and the Spanish, and they now have proper property rights. They can just take your property from you if it's in the national interest to do so. They don't respect things like that. They don't respect the borders of your home. But England, we've always done, and Scotland, I suppose, that's just Scotland as an extension of England. We've always done that, and so you're definitely crossing a line.
So, forgive my ignorance, Ed. Again, I'm very ignorant. So, was it the Cavaliers or the Roundheads that believed in? It was the Cavaliers that wanted to stop taxation and personal property get taken by the state. Was it?
No. It was the other way around. So you had the Roundheads, i.e., Parliament, and they were kind of trying to protect the idea that that Parliament is sovereign and that the laws are sovereign. There are certain laws that restrict the king, including laws in relation to being able to extract money and things like this. Whereas it was the king that had this idea, that very continental idea, it's not an English idea, of the divine right of kings, i.e., an absolute monarch who has God behind him, who can just do whatever he wants because he is God on earth. And that's very much more the idea of the French idea that the king was just God, or the Tsar, that the king was just God. And it was the English where we had this limitation of the powers of the king. I mean, okay, you've got to remember that these Puritans were the kind of woke bastards of the time as well. I mean, they weren't perfect. Yeah. But they were to some extent trying to defend traditional English liberties against a king that had taken on these continental ideas of absolute monarchy, where you can just force people to, you just take their money from them, basically. So yeah, that's a problem. And what he's saying, Hamza Yousaf, is totally against traditions of English law. That always there's been this idea that you can say what you want in your own home. Your home is your castle. Your home is your property. You can't be forced to let someone into your home. That's why you have to have a warrant from the courts for someone to enter your home. As I understand it, in Finland, that's not the case. A policeman can just enter your home if they suspect there's a crime. You need a warrant. So
really.
Another thing that you have in Finland is that you must obey the police. Now, if the police break the law, then you can sue them later. But at the time of them telling you to do something that you don't have to do, you must obey the police. So it's like being in the army. Whereas in England, that's not the case. You are not obliged to obey the police. If the police are wrong, then you can contest it and say, no, you can't make me do that. Yeah. So you know, it's a continental sort of thing that Hamza Yousaf was bringing in, and as well the very thing of restriction on free speech. You know, we had this rule in England that you could say what you like as long as you weren't engaging in blasphemy against the established church, and as long in public, and as long as you weren't basically shouting fire in a crowded theatre, and those were the two limitations. And that was always been the case.
And it's also, it's very unfortunate that it was the UK's first Muslim prime minister, that was trying to bring in these continental blasphemy laws in your own home. All the conspiracy theories, this is like the first step towards blasphemy laws, is suddenly criticizing Islam on the street going to be controlled. And no wonder the guy had to fuck off, basically. No wonder.
It wasn't just that he was Muslim, though. He was also Scottish. And
I'll forgive him for that part.
Scottish people have a fundamental, you know, they're more left-wing than the English. They're more concerned with equality and harm avoidance. They're less in favor of freedom, in my view.
It's unfortunately true. They're very socialist, and because everything you've explained about the English, the kind of support for a man's home as his castle, the Scottish want to be against that because it's English. So, you know, your own sovereign ability to say what you want out of your own mouth in the comfort of your own home, that's an English idea, a colonial English idea, Ed. Bad idea.
Right. I mean, like, to give you an example of something that shocked me once in Scotland, we're getting the bus, the overnight bus from Aberdeen to London because we were young students, we didn't have any money. And so we thought, let's get drunk and pass out, obviously, so we can sleep on this incredibly uncomfortable bus. But then the moment I got the beer out, then this guy's like, "Hey, you can't drink that." No, you know, like you can't drink on my bus. And I was like, "What? You can drink on a plane? Why can't I drink on your bus?" No, not allowed. Yeah. And they have, he throw me off at the next stop if he caught me drinking. That's what he said. So they have this puritanism as well. I mean, why can't you drink on a bus? I once got a bus from Riga in Latvia to Kaunas, and everyone on there was drinking vodka for the whole ride.
Yeah,
and it was great. And they were going all the way to Germany. These Russians. I mean, they'd have been completely pissed by the time they got there. So anyway.
How David Hume must be turning in his grave. John Locke is dying again with what the Scottish are doing. It's not good, Ed. It's the whole, you know, I was just to give our stories of being controlled by nasty little bitter Scottish people. I was with my parents in a pub in Scotland at the height of lockdown. And you remember that those stupid thing, oh, if you're eating, you can take off your mask so you can put food in your mouth and you can drink. And then I stood up to go to the toilet, and a nasty hag, a horrible hag, she goes, "Oh, if you're going to the toilet, you got to put your mask on." And I just, and it was just like none of her business. She was waiting for from across the pub, waiting for one of us to commit some.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. The commissars, the women. It's always
commissars.
The women. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to the toilet to vomit. But anyway, I mean, I don't know. Like you get that, and I can see it as being a much more Scottish thing. I'm so glad that I never experienced lockdown, because it sounds awful, and it sounds the most appalling 2 years of everyone's lives. I'm so glad we didn't have it here, because we're too sparsely populated for it to happen. All they did was shut the pubs and shut the restaurants. But obviously Finns, that's difficult for Finns because they need to drink, obviously, heavily. But that was fine. They were able to get hold of. They didn't shut the shops or limit the shops opening hours or anything like that. So they were able
You know
to get
what,
hold of
Ed? Sorry, funny you bring up lockdown and COVID. AstraZeneca admitted today in court in London that there's a class action lawsuit about a lot of people who have been damaged by the AstraZeneca jab, and they've admitted that it does do some quite rare conditions, health problems. I don't want to get too much into it because I lost my channel for 2 weeks for criticizing the COVID vaccine. But if it's out in the court today, AstraZeneca has admitted that they're safe and effective. Arm juice wasn't so safe after all.
No, I am surprised.
Very surprised.
I'm not surprised. No.
And I still want to find someone who regrets not taking the COVID vaccines. I want to find someone who I wish I'd taken it. I'm still to find one.
I doubt they will. Oh, well, I guess there might be some people that have died as a consequence of not taking it. But there would be. I know the only person I knew personally that died of it. He was like that. He was because he became a conspiracy theorist. He went down that whole road, and Twin Towers was set up and all this stuff, and then he died aged 54.
Really.
Of the COVID,
but he died. Didn't he die because he was a bit mutanty? He had bad immune system.
Yeah, he was fat.
There you go. So it wasn't the COVID; it was the fat.
No, it was the fat plus the COVID. But
COVID tipped him over the edge. The COVID was the pillow. Your man was the old granny, and COVID was the pillow over his face.
Yeah. Another difference between England and Scotland, by the way, is that in England, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
And in Scotland, that's not the case because there's this concept of not proven. So therefore, you can have the possibility that you're guilty hanging over you for the rest of your life. Yeah. Whereas in England, it used to be the case, double jeopardy, that you're found not guilty and that's it. And you can never, ever be tried for that case again. So even if you said,
even as you're coming out of the course, I fucking killed her, I got away with it.
People did. Oh, there were cases of this, of people in the 60s. I remember there was a case I read about this, of somebody, he was found not, about 1964, he was found not guilty, and then he sold his story to the Mirror or whatever, saying, yeah, I killed him, this is how I killed him. And he couldn't be untouchable. He couldn't be touched because that was the law. That you if they find you not guilty, you're not guilty, and you can never be tried for it again. And that's it. You're not guilty.
Well, they've changed that. Hopefully, they've changed
that. They have changed it, which is awful because it means that an overmighty state can come after you again and again and again and again with the same charges.
Yeah, but that's the best way to avoid that is to not murder people. Then it probably won't happen.
Yeah, fine, but what if you're a political dissident and then they come after you with these charges? You're found not guilty. You're found not guilty, and they just say, we've got some more new evidence, or some more new evidence, and some more new evidence, and they can basically bankrupt you via a kind of lawfare where you have to keep getting lawyers, keep whatever continuously forever. And so that's why it's good to have a law that the Crown should be bloody certain that they can prove you're guilty if you go on trial, and you can only be on trial for that offence once, because it's a safeguard against an overmighty dictatorship. That's why it's good. And in Scotland, you didn't have that. In Scotland, you have not proven, which means that, as I understand it, which means that the sheriff can come after you again until it is either not guilty, in which case there was double jeopardy in Scotland, or
not proven is the procurator fiscal saying, we fucking know you did it, you bastard, but we couldn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Well, it's the jury saying that. It's the jury saying that. Yeah, it's the jury saying we know you did it.
Ed, one of the biggest black pills for me as a grown-up, biggest black pill. I remember being at school and you read about these like organizations in Chicago, they get 10 men off death row. They were not guilty, they're innocent. And I'm like, oh my God, these men were going to be executed. They didn't. The biggest black pill for me, Ed, is that most of the people released through appeals and stuff still fucking did it. It's just that the trials weren't good enough to keep them in prison. And that is a black pill.
Well, yeah, that is. I mean, it's true. I mean, if in general, the prosecutor is not going to put someone on trial unless there is a very substantial amount of evidence that they are guilty, and unless they're very sure that they are going to likely be found guilty.
And it's 25 years today since the murder of Jill Dando, Ed.
Oh God, yeah, that I remember that. I was at home possibly revising for my A-level exams like a good boy. And then I was meant to be in school because in our free periods we were supposed to be in school, but I just said I'm not going. I just said, look, I'm not. I've predicted 3 A's. I'm your best student, and I'm not coming into school. And they accepted that. And then I went into school, into the sixth form common room where we had a radio, and then Jill Dando's been shot.
Yeah.
I was like, what? This is not possible. Jill Dando has been Jill Dando,
most beloved woman. The most beloved woman.
Jill, she was beloved. She was like a much higher IQ version of Stacey Dooley.
Yes.
She was the beloved TV presenter of her time. She did the news. She did Crime Watch. She did like sort of holiday type, documentaries. And then she's dead on a doorstep.
I got to be careful because I don't want to get sued. But I think the system should have another look at Barry George. Maybe go against this double jeopardy thing. But Barry George is my suspect.
That's what Nick Robinson, that used to host Crime Watch with us, said. That he thinks it was Barry George.
And he got released on one of these appeals. The black pill is that they didn't do the process properly to convict him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, stalkers. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible thing. And if he was interviewed this week, says Charlie Pepper, was he? I should have a look at that. Yeah, but Jill Dando, and she was suddenly. Anyway, look, we've got some questions that we should return to. This. Kit says, no sympathy. He works hard to criminalise people for what they say in their own homes, to put people in prison, actual prison, for saying things that leftists don't like. Enough of this sympathy and empathy for those who hate us. Yeah, I didn't. It wasn't me that had sympathy for him. I think it was Charlie that did because of his Scottishness.
I get sentimental about, because I think ultimately we're all children of God. We're all sinners. We're all full of shit. And when someone gets annihilated, quite rightly, I do have a bit of sympathy for them, even if it's Gaddafi or Saddam or Yousaf.
Judas. God of Pig, King of Dog. God of Pig, King of Dog says the president of Chocolate Land, Chocolate, Chief Chocolate of Chocolate Land, Chocolate, every face to Chocolate Land, Chocolate. Thank you, sir. Adrian R says, are you not Catholic, Ed? No, I'm not Catholic. No, I went to a Catholic boys' school, but I'm not Catholic. No, I'm sympathetic, I guess. I had quite a positive experience at this school, so I'm sympathetic, but I'm not Catholic. No, I'm not Catholic. No. The next question comes from Football Fan 21, and he says nothing. He just sends 199. Thank you, sir. And then Joe Vlogs says, "Big up Charlie." No, 199 says, "Big up Charlie and Jolly Heretic." Thank you, Joe Vlogs. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Stuart G says, "Jolly, are you related to Derren Brown or ever studied with or in his realms of mind stuff?" I am not related to Derren Brown. I have where is it? I can't find my book. I have hypnotized people, yeah. And I don't mean like on this channel. I mean, I taught myself to do it, and then the furthest I got, I was in a castle in northern Latvia for a anthropology summer school, and that castle was supposedly haunted. And we went down into the cellar, me and these 3 young female students, and then I did a seance with a Ouija board, and I hypnotized myself in doing so, and I also hypnotized them. And then we were like talking to this ghost via a translator, and it seems to all of us, on some level, I knew this wasn't true and this was just nonsense, but on another level, when you're in it, it seems very real, like it's actually happening. And it feels like when you're moving the glass, that you're not moving it, that you're being compelled externally to move it. It's a very interesting experience. And I was hypnotized myself, and I'd hypnotized them. And so it got a bit complicated. I would have had to bring them out. There was one of them she previously told me that she'd been a bit religious and so forth. So she was probably quite subject to hypnosis. And I brought her out of it by making her sort of go up the stairs and through the door and the way that you do it. But I didn't bring her out of it enough. So she was still hypnotized when I asked her to open her eyes. And when she did, her pupils were dilated like I've never seen. It was frightening. It's like there was no iris. It was just black. And I was like, oh, I fucked up here. So I put her back under. I re-hypnotized. I'm trying to find the book where I learned these skills. It's around here somewhere. I re-hypnotized her, and then brought her out much more slowly. And then it was okay. And the next day we talked about it. It was all like a really weird, moving experience for us. But it seemed real. We basically caused ourselves to have a kind of religious experience. It was quite extraordinary. Have you ever been hypnotized, Charlie?
I haven't, no, but I have my own stories of people freaking out and bad things. I'll be careful how I tell this story because I don't want to get people into trouble.
This book here, Trance Work. There you go.
How do you pronounce that surname? Yapko.
Yapko, yeah.
Yapko, very good. No, back in the year 2003, I went with a group of people to Vienna, to a house party in Vienna, a well-to-do family. It was very nice. And one of my friends, unbeknownst to me, smuggled a few ecstasy tablets in his little mini jeans pocket, the little condom pocket in your jeans. And he just pulled out ecstasy. Everyone's drunk at this party. One of the Austrian girls, she's like, oh, I want to try it. But she's really drunk. Anyway, it was like a horror movie, Ed. The guy gave her the ecstasy tablet. And she's like, yeah, woo. And, everyone was partying. I'll never say whether I was or not because that's a different lifetime. But everyone was partying. She took the ecstasy tablet and their eyes instantly rolled over. She fell on the floor and had a seizure. And we're all like looking at each other going, well, plenty of good books have been written in prison. I'm sure Austrian prison will be fine. Turns out, so we put her into bed. The girls were screaming, call an ambulance. But then one of the Scottish guys, no, you're not going to fucking call an ambulance. So she got taken to the bedroom, put into bed, and she rejoined the house party in a very good mood 2 hours later. So it was okay.
That's nice.
It was very, very nice. And the other one, this is more personal to me. I was in Amsterdam in the year 99 as a 19-year-old with my best friend at the time from university. And it's perfectly legal in Amsterdam. Psilocybin, mushrooms. Now it's truffles, but psilocybin is legal. So we took a heroic dose, like properly massive dose. I convinced him that I was Satan and that he was God and that we're going to take over the universe together. We flew back to Edinburgh and he's never spoken to me since. And just don't do drugs, kids.
No. You don't want that. You don't want to be convinced that you're Satan and God, respectively. God.
No.
Okay. Okay. I've done that one about the chocolate thing. Lenny says, "Keep up the excellent work, Charles. Never change. You're the best."
Oh, with a comment like that, let me find it. Read it. Where is he?
Put it on the screen. There you are.
Oh, Lenny, thank you. As someone who grew up in funny different countries, having to always go to new schools and make new friends, I always get a small touch of thank you, of gratitude when people appreciate my work. So thank you, Lenny.
Thank you, Lenny. And then Adrian R says, that one, are you not Catholic, Ed? And as I said, no. And then Chopped Suey says, goodbye and good riddance, Humza. Yeah, I think that is the general feeling that his riddance is good. We are good to be rid of him. And I hope Katie Forbes becomes the next First Minister of Scotland. Although, to be fair, I mean, this independence thing does not look like it's going to happen now, does it? I mean, this is now...
No, the Scottish share price is down. It's gone down. It's a buy position. Like it's Scottish independence now. Like everyone's just worried they're just going to bring in blasphemy laws. But maybe out of the Scottish government, I could get some funding to find out if midget women have regular sized vaginas. That's going to be my takeaway from this.
I did not look into. Let me just write this down. I did not look into this before I started talking about it, but I assume there's probably research on something like that because it's a medical issue.
On Pornhub, I could probably find out on Pornhub.
Well, no, but that wouldn't necessarily be a representative sample.
No, it'd be generous.
We'd have to have it would be the bigger ones, wouldn't it? So it would have to be a representative sample of Dwarf. So yeah, I think I'll look into whether there's been. There's anything on it. The next question comes from Chotsui, and he says, "Yeah, did that one. Goodbye, good friends." Arab Shaitan says, "Charlie, into that Iranian guy, Saeed."
Okay.
Who's Saeed?
Yeah,
Who's
I will.
Saeed?
I thought Saeed was excellent, Ed. I'm very happy that was it last week, not the week before.
No,
He
she's
was.
talking about somebody else. This is not. We didn't interview Saeed.
Oh shit! I know who Saeed is. Sorry, we had our own Iranian guy. What was his name, Ed? What was his name?
Ali.
Ali. So Saeed was a wonderful. He's a white European culture enthusiast I bumped into, and he loves Europe. He was listing, Black Sabbath, Motorhead, all these like European bands that he likes. And I had a 2-minute chat in one of my videos with an Iranian guy who wanted to promote white European culture above everything else, and he was a very charming man.
Okay. And then good God of Pig, King of Dog says chocolate people not celebrating. So yeah, this is, I think some of them did. Okay. There was something else that's just come in here. Football fan did that one. Hang on, it just literally just came up. Did that one. President. I think that's about it for now. I'll just check out the other thing. Yes. No, I think that's I think the general feeling is Low Mercury Tuna says, will this go down as the most backtracked piece of, I don't know how I can check your of pedomasterial, is it all inappropriate touching caught on cam? And then he sends me a Twitter link.
What?
I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I don't know. I can't look at this now. I'll have to look at this next week when I'm able to watch.
I've just learned a new term, Ed. Saeed is far white. That's a new term I've learned today. Far white.
Far white. He's a far white Iranian. So again, I should emphasize, please go to my, if you're watching, be subscribed, of course, and also please go to my jollyherrick.com where you can buy tickets for meet and greet on the 31st of May with Sargon of Akkad, with Nick Dixon, with Academic Agent, and with Richard Graham, where we will discuss my new film, the Year Zero. And I think we've got a sort of better sort of round up. So Charlie, what plans do you have for next week in terms of, you've been to Clitheroe?
Clitheroe, Morley, Central Manchester. Leeds is back on the cards. It's a
My
very
friends from Luton feel that you didn't really give it a chance, and that you should have looked at like the medieval churches they have there, for example, some of the oldest churches in England.
Laura was very brave that day, but me, your humble narrator, I was terrified of being stabbed, being recognized by some pro-Palestinians, and being, done.
Yeah, but it was broad daylight in Luton.
Oh, that doesn't stop them. Like, when's that ever stopped them?
All right. Well, the feeling is you should give Luton more of a chance. You've done Chester. I'm just thinking where you haven't done yet. That's worth doing.
I will do Luton a chance again because I found a hack. There's a Luton Airport Parkway or Luton Town. There's a train station, and the fast trains into London, King's Cross, are 23 minutes. Hotel prices are a fraction of the cost of London in Luton. So we stay in Luton and we get the train into central London, which is the way it's done. So I will give Luton a proper go, and I'll do the churches for you, Ed, and I'll get into an argument with some lefty priest in a Luton church for you.
All right, thank you very much. Oh, we've got one more question. So Lou says, love you, Charlie. Been watching since Love Police days. Yeah. I was sadly a long-haired uni lefty at the time. Guevara.
Che Guevara.
Oh, I see. Shirt and all, but have been cleaning my room since. Keep on keeping our streets clean of crackies. Thank you very much, Lou, with your kind £20 donation.
Thank you, that's very, very good.
That's very good of you. All right, so chaps, I will see you all. Just see anything else.
Wait, one last bit of propaganda, Ed. One last bit of propaganda. I even put it on the T-shirt so that people wearing Che Guevara T-shirts. Enough of that leftyism. Let's just keep it based, guys. Keep it fucking based.
Okay, Rome. Okay. Yeah, keep it holy, keep it holy, keep it holy. All right, chaps. I will see you all soon on Monday, indeed, and goodbye.
Thank you.